Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Friday morning coffee time, July the 3rd. And as Jones reminded us in the chat, Scott's birthday. Happy birthday, Scott, from myself and I'm sure everyone in the chat. Yes, there's lots of happy birthday wishes. Well, it's Friday, July the 3rd, and the sun's shining here on Jewett Creek. Things look like a beautiful summer day. Just a reminder today that Ajahn Dhamma is going to be giving a Dhamma talk once again. That's at 4 p.m. on Zoom. So, and I don't have the details, but I'm sure if you contact Tisarana, they might even have it up on their website. So, somebody sent me a message yesterday just inquiring what the situation is visiting Abhayagiri, our parent monastery. And I emailed them yesterday to see how they're doing. Many of the bigger monasteries rely on a fairly consistent flow of guests for some of the duties in the monastery. And things have been rather fluid with COVID. But they're accepting guests right now for longer stays. So people can come for sometime between 1 and 3 months. And people that stay there before get a little preference because we kind of know each other and know that there's a better sense of how they'll fit into the community. So if people want a longish stay at Abhayagiri, times like this are good. There's more space, more opportunity. So, but they seem to be doing well, and there's a few people there in the that are seeking ordination. So, have people to help out with all the various roles. I think many of the other monasteries are in a similar pattern, but not all, too. So. Let's see who's all here. A lot of my favorite people. So, and we have about 70 now. So I think whoever wants to be here or can be here this morning is probably here already. So. Last few mornings doing the morning chanting, right towards the end, there's a line that is one of my favorite short contemplations. And the last few days when we chanted it catches my attention and comes back up at various points of the day. And the Pali is Sabbe Sankhārā Aniccā, Sabbe dhamma anattati. So, and I'll give you a little informal mini Pali lesson. Sabbe means all. So, Sabbe Sankhārā Aniccā. This is a great one. Pretty easily to translate. Once you know Sabbe is all. Sabbe, and then Sankhāras, many of you are familiar with that. So, Sankhārā means concocted, conditioned, put together. Has several different meanings, but also it shows up in the model of the 5 aggregates. So Sankhārā is sometimes translated as mental formations or volitions. So in that model, it's speaking specifically to the concoction of mental formations, thoughts, emotions, built up of perceptions and intentions and contact. In particular, stuck together, glued together with volition and attention. So, and through the lens of conditionality, it's a powerful kind of contemplation to consider mental formations in particular as being something that is glued together with volition. It's what something means to us and our relationship to it, our intentions towards it, that plays a important, even critical role in what it is that we attend to and enters consciousness. There's all this kind of filtering going on. Things that aren't important to us or that we don't care about don't get our attention, don't hold our attention. And, I'd say our typical relationship to emotion and thought formations, we kind of tend to relate to them in a way that they're more true than they are, they're more solid than they are, they're me, they're mine, they're an emanation or expression of me. And this contemplation of how they are causally conditioned and arise, and in particular, how our desire, our volition, our intention, and our relationship to others, to things in the world, what a critical role that plays. And in that lies a message of freedom. You change your relationship, your very relationship to how it is that the desire structures sit within your life, and how you relate to them, but also your relationship with the whole conscious experience of thought, how it is that we're invested in that. There's a great potential to change our experience for the better, and in particular, to get free oneself from what sometimes feels like the tyranny of our thought world and our emotional world. So, but this particular phrase, our contemplation, Sabbe, Sankhārā, Aniccā, isn't just speaking to Sankhārā that we find in the five khandhas, or the model of the five khandhas. I think it's probably more broadly pointed to just all conditioned things are concocted, are constructions. Sabbe Sankhārā Aniccā. And these constructions are not sure, ephemeral, impermanent. So, and the more we reflect on this and see the truth of this, and also the freedom that lies within being clear-sighted about this aspect of consciousness, the more this wisdom and the sati, the remembrance of this, the bringing of this to mind, has a potential to help us get free and stay free and live in a way that is absent of suffering. So, Aniccā, a very concrete example is a million times a day we have various thoughts about ourselves and others, and we just relate to them as solid, as true, as enduring. And along the lines of Ajahn Chah's kind of reflections on this characteristic of Aniccā is it's not sure. So not only maybe not 100% the truth, it's not enduring truth, it's not solid. And my own sort of experience of being able to remember and recollect that kind of wisdom sort of paradigm in relating to my experiences, it gives this kind of space to not go too far down the rabbit hole of unskillful thought trains and judgments and tendencies. So, and the second part of that reflection, Sabbe dhamma anattati, sits very nicely and rounds out this as a wonderful little dhamma reminder. Sabbe, again, all. Dhamma, so all dhammas. Anattati, are anatta. So the translation we have in our chanting book is, there is no self in the created or the uncreated. And I was chatting with Ajahn Krunadamo the other day about this. And he says, yeah, it's not my favorite translation for it. And I said, why? He said, well, because the more straightforward meaning of this packs a little more punch. Like, there is no self in the created or the uncreated, sort of starts to create a paradigm of self where if you take the statement sort of more straight on, it's like all dhammas are anatta, are not self. So it's not like framing it sort of through there is no self in the created or the uncreated. Maybe it's somewhere else. Like you've evoked the frame of self, but it's kind of like a nuanced take on it. But I think it's really powerful, and it also I relate strongly to it. Like all dhammas, like said emphatically, all dhammas. And here, dhamma is not just meaning the teaching of the Buddha; it means like all things. Sabbe dhamma anattati. All dhammas are anatta, are not self, are not worthy of appropriating as me, as mine, as myself, as what I am. So if this resonates with you, or at least piques your interest as a little bit of portable Dhamma, you might memorize it. I bet you 50% of you already have a sense of the word Sankhārā and Aniccā and Dhamma and Anatta. So just this one word, Sabbe, and knowing that that means all, unpacks this as a nice little contemplation. You put it on a little post-it note and put it on your fridge. Better yet, memorize it, chant it, recollect it, remember it, bring it to mind, turn it over, contemplate it. Sabbe Sankhārā Aniccā, Sabbe dhamma anattati. So that's the thought for today. Let's see, I saw early on maybe a slightly ironic tattoo. I'm not sure what would be ironic about it, but I guess because tattoos are permanent, are considered permanent. Maybe. the tyranny of thought can really dominate. Meditation as an antidote. Also body awareness, walking meditation. Yeah, it's the tyranny of thought. The tyranny of thought. It certainly feels like it at times. And it's our work to make sure that we can cultivate the practice sufficiently that thought is not a tyranny. Thought is just thought. Certainly doesn't feel like that sometimes, but thought is just thought. Okay, well, let's see. Early on, Scott, whose birthday it is today, popped something in here, so we got to attend to that. A little morning coffee present for Scott is to answer his question. Ajahn, my experience with nature is that there is an indifference to my presence. It seems an expression of anatta. Could you reflect a bit on this? Yeah, I have the very same sense when I'm in nature. And I've heard Ajahn Thanissaro even talk about this, explaining the value of the wilderness and spending time in the wilderness. And that's where I find it most profound. What do I mean by wilderness? I mean, there is a lot of nature, like just in our backyards, even in our cities. And these days we have lots of parks, especially here in the Columbia River Gorge where we live. There's all kinds of natural wonders and spots and parks where we can go and engage with nature. But the feeling of being in there, it's like you're surrounded by nature, but the mere fact that it's a park and it's been set up for human access changes my experience of it, as opposed to spending time like going into the wilderness where you're far away from trails or campgrounds or anything. So the reference to the human element, the human scale, human concerns, humans' comfort is very distant or completely removed. And there is this kind of feeling of indifference, like a kind of smallness or a humble sense that you're not necessarily the most important thing, the most important feature in that little chunk of the earth. So there's a tendency for me, and again, my value systems and the value I give things, the volitions and intentions that are constantly bubbling through the mind to color our experience of the environment, and they seem small, trivial, ineffective, unimportant, and I'd say like a profound experience of nature. So, and for me, it also just the time signature. You're amongst trees that have been around for hundreds of years, sometimes even 1,000 years or more. You're amidst geological formations and rocks and rivers that have a scale that just dwarfs the human scale or reference, and even the reference of human-built environments. Like what's Manhattan or Paris or Mexico City compared to the great Himalayas? It's nothing. Even the biggest and the greatest and the most exciting of our cities pale by comparison, in some sense, to the features of the natural world. So, now reflecting unskillfully, like one could sort of sense that sort of indifference, and it could be a sorrowful thought, I would say. And you know, oftentimes in human societies, I think nature is seen as something that is dangerous and hostile. Uh, but through the lens of Dhamma or something, I find it does move one to a powerful kind of recognition of Anicca and Anatta in particular. So, and sort of recognizing that, or having had experiences like that, um, they come back to one and they inform one. In fact, just yesterday I was in my kuti, and I spent more time than I should have yesterday trying to catch up on news and just make sense of where we are with the pandemic and the politics of the pandemic, and openings and closings and pausings and uh, testing and all this stuff. And and my mind was just full of this, and I wasn't suffering profoundly, but it seems like a great mess, and a very significant challenge. And it's hard exactly to know who to trust, and how much or how concrete or reliable our understanding is of some of those things. Anyways, I was spending too much time uh, looking at that, and then I just took a break and looked out the window and was just looking at the trees on the edge of the forest, kind of swaying gently in the breeze, and and they just looked indifferent to me in this way that's kind of timeless and selfless. The branches just bending and swaying, and the leaves fluttering as the breeze kind of ebbed and flowed through the space here in the central part of the Hermitage. And it wasn't even so much like a formed thought that I said to myself, but there was just this sense of like, I wonder if the tree's worried about the pandemic. Or I wonder if the tree's worried about uh, our own cares and concerns about friends and loved ones, and whether we're going to get it or not, or whether it's going to be a cure or not, or whether it's tearing our society apart or not. Um, and for me, not only is there like, not only is that sense of indifference, but it's also like a bit of a mirror about this whole process of Sankhārā, of thought formation. Like, the sense of fear and anxiety and doubt and worry is a construct in my mind. Um, and it feels like, just a very skillful thing to take a break from that and reconnect with uh, the elemental and simple, direct experience of the natural world. So it feels balancing and grounding. And for me, it kind of returns me to a sense of it's okay. You know, there's uncertainty, but there's always uncertainty. There's great change, but there's always great change happening. Sometimes it just the features that are changing are more impactful or meaningful to me and to what it is that I care about. So there's some wonderful suttas where the Buddha talks about taking up the practice of the 4 elements to contemplate equanimity and what we might call a wise sense of indifference. He talks about how be like the earth, just as the earth doesn't tolerates people treading upon it and throwing all kinds of trash upon it, spitting upon it, defecating and urinating. It doesn't make a problem out of that. Make your mind like that. And I see that as a great encouragement to look to nature as a sign and as a reminder of how it is that we can keep a measure of equanimity and keep the bigger kind of picture in mind, the longer swath of history, including even the history of humanity. So, all right, well, let's see. I have two or three more things highlighted here. So let's see if I can visit a couple of those. Just about out of time for today. So if I don't get to your question today, write it down and come back tomorrow. Let's see, where is Shira? Good morning, Shira. Good morning. The 16 stages of meditation depicted in the Anapanasati Sutta, are they jhana practice or insight meditation practice using the breath? Well, Shira, they're both. One of the things that's so nice about the Anapanasati Sutta is you get this very detailed and expansive framework for Anapanasati, and it's a wonderful integration of both samatha and vipassana. And there can be and is a little bit of an artificial distinction or separation in some of the modern teaching modalities that are out there. They make too much of serenity practice being one thing and insight practice being another. And we're of the school that you can't really separate the two. My favorite verses in the Dhammapada is something along the lines of, there is no wisdom without there is no jhana without wisdom, and no wisdom without jhana. Something along those lines. But also Ajahn said, this is like an artificial distinction. There's an intimate relationship between jhana and vipassana or wisdom. And he says it's like they're two ends of a stick. And if you pick up a stick, you pick up both ends. Even if you grab it by one end, you pick it up by both ends. They're connected, they're related. So, and the Anapanasati Sutta, I'd say, just loosely or generally, the early parts of the Anapanasati Sutta are, guidance in how to develop the overcoming of the hindrances and the jhana factors. And then the later parts of that sutta are dealing a little bit more with insight themes. So let's see. Yeah. Good morning, Abby. A jhana question. When working on bringing up the fullness of the heart, joy, love in meditation, frequently tears arise. Can you address, Ajahn? Yeah, this happens to a lot of people. There's some sort of emotional release, and tears come. So, and they can be tears of joy, or sometimes it's a little hard to even understand what's going on there. But let it flow. Just don't make any problem out of it. It can be a very positive sign. So, especially if it's absent any sorrow or anything, but tears of joy, no problem. So I've had that experience many times. So, all right, well, I'm gonna skip the rest of these because our friends who do the mowing are here right now. So I hear a couple machines kind of revving up, and I'm not sure if it's coming through to you on the microphone, but it will. So, all right, friends, have a good day, and Scott, have a wonderful, happy birthday, and I'll see you all tomorrow for morning coffee time. So be well, friends.